Before we dig into implementing employee engagement practices, let's take a moment to go over some of the common and current thinking around employee engagement. As stated in the last video, employee engagement can completely transform a business, both in its work environment and its profitability. The importance of employee engagement has sparked many articles with quick tips to help you make work more fun, as well as the creation of computer software to add games, challenges, and incentives for people to work harder. The problem with these common and current practices is that they're often overly simplistic and undermine the fundamental principles of inspiring and motivating people. People are complex, and so are the methods needed to get them to change. As we defined in the previous video, employee engagement is the efforts that organizations make to create high level of motivation and enthusiasm in employees. The truth is, human motivation is very complicated, and so is harnessing and maintaining enthusiasm. So quick tips and motivation hacks at their best are simply band-aids, and at their worst, they're often ineffective and possibly insulting. Engagement software with strategies like gamification are an interesting add-on to an already robust approach or plan, but they are not a plan in and of themselves. It is not processes and systems that engage and inspire, it's people. Employee engagement is all about people, so the solutions need to be understood, implemented, and committed to by people. Perhaps the most important element is how the environment that people work in play a major role in their motivation. To better understand this, let's take a quick look at one of the dominant theories of employee motivation. In the 1960s, Frederick Herzberg developed the motivation and hygiene theory of the workplace, which he more recently modified in the early 2000s. The Coles Notes version of his theory is that in the workplace, there are negative factors that create job dissatisfaction. Factors like punitive company policies, poor leadership, conflict with supervisors and peers, unsafe or uncomfortable working conditions, and uncompetitive or unfair wages. The crux of this theory is that when a workplace resolves these issues, changes leadership, gives raises, etc., it does not in turn create job satisfaction. It simply alleviates the dissatisfaction. To create job satisfaction, a business has to incorporate the positive factors, such as opportunities for achievement, occasions for recognition, increased responsibility, clear career paths, and professional growth and development. In summary of this theory, job dissatisfaction and job satisfaction are distinct. Addressing one does not inherently create the other. However, this is how most people think about the two aspects. They tend to believe if you don't have one, you have the other. But in reality, if a workplace does not have job dissatisfaction and does not have job satisfaction, it has a third type of environment that's between the two. An environment of job neutrality. Think of it this way. If you had a job with an unfair boss, personal issues with coworkers, below market value wages, and risky working conditions, you probably think you had a bad job, and you would likely have a sense of job dissatisfaction. Alternatively, if you had a job with a decent boss, no problems with coworkers, fair wages, safe working conditions, plus appreciative leadership, opportunities for advancement, prospects for promotions, and chances of new training, you'd probably think you had a pretty good job, and you would likely have a sense of job satisfaction. However, if you had a job with no issues with your boss, no issues with coworkers, market value wages, and safe working conditions, but also no real recognition, no opportunities for advancement, no chances for promotion, and no chances for training, you'd probably think you had a mediocre job, and you'd likely have a sense of job neutrality. This concept of job neutrality is why organizations do not often get the big boost in morale or productivity that they expect when they resolve issues in the workplace. Resolving dissatisfaction will bring you to a place of neutrality. It's from neutrality where you have the greatest impact for implementing the factors of job satisfaction. Let's look at an example. Maria is the personnel manager of a production facility. Over the past few years, she's had a real issue in getting employees to maintain motivation at work. She looked into some of the most common complaints that staff had. Two things that jumped out at her were that the break room was dingy and uncomfortable, and there was a lot of hostility between the day shift and the evening shift. So after 3 months of work, Maria managed to spruce up the break room and work with shift supervisors to resolve interpersonal issues between the two shifts. After all that work, She was sure that employee motivation would skyrocket. But to her surprise, there was not a long-term change. This is because people expect their job to not have factors that cause them dissatisfaction. So resolving issues is appreciated, but rarely inspiring. Motivation is not gained from fixing problems that staff should not have to deal with. Motivation is gained by making people feel respected, trusted, invested in, and fulfilled. Let's recap. The most common way people think about employee engagement is mostly about quick fixes or correcting problems in the workplace. But the reality is that employee motivation and enthusiasm is complex, and quick fixes are often not sustainable. Employees expect that there are things they shouldn't have to deal with in the workplace, things like interpersonal conflicts or unfair wages. Resolving these negative factors does not improve motivation. It only stops it from being lost further. Once you bring your motivation up to a minimum standard of job neutrality, you can then start to incorporate the factors that will increase motivation and enthusiasm.